Today, we're going to talk about Superfluid. We're super excited to be sponsoring the event, but I'll give you a little agenda here. Here's what we're going to talk about. So first, again, like I said, what is Superfluid? Two, we're going to focus this presentation on super tokens. So I want to talk through what super tokens are and new forms of value transfer that super tokens enable. Then I want to walk through how Superfluid, like the protocol, works under the hood. Like how are super tokens able to be moved in these unique ways. Then we'll get into like the brass tacks. What prizes do we have for you guys at this event? What do we think you guys should work on? All the alpha there will be in part 4. And then the final thing we'll go through is just how to actually build on Superfluid tangibly. I don't know if we'll have time to go through any kind of like in-depth coding today, but I'll show you exactly where to go and where to find things in our docs to just get started. So what is Superfluid? Well, I think the best way to think about what we do is that we are pioneering a new token standard that will revolutionize money as we know it, right? So that sounds ambitious, but I hope to convince you that this is as powerful as I say it is by the end of this presentation. So to get more practical, right, a few things that this token standard is going to allow you to do and already does allow you to do. One is stream money, right? So if you've heard of Superfluid, this is probably what you think of Superfluid as. We've talked about ourselves as like the money streaming protocol for a long time, but we haven't really talked about the main thing that we're innovating on, and it's the token itself, right? So these tokens let you stream money. They enable scalable one-to-many distributions, and they also enable programmable reactive applications, and I'll get into what those are a bit later. So if we zoom out a little bit, one thing we like to say internally at Superfluid a lot is that the internet is to information what blockchain is to value, right? And one way that this is manifesting itself is that we are moving away from a world of discrete one-off value transfers. So everything from I swipe a debit card and a set number of dollars or yen leave my account, or I give you like a cash note, like a physical piece of cash, right, or a piece of gold, right? That's it, all discrete value transfers, right? We're moving away from that to a world where value may be transferred in entirely novel ways. And the first way that value has kind of been able to be transferred in DeFi and crypto has been through like tokens and even like discrete transfers of native assets, right? Like if I transfer ETH, I specify the exact amount of ETH right now that I want to transfer, and that's it. With Superfluid, we open this up, right? We expand this to many more different kinds of value transfer. So what are these different kinds of value transfer, right? So I'll walk through what these are, and then I'll get into like what are the super tokens, how is all this working, and so on. So the first thing again is money streaming, right? So this allows me to take any kind of recurring payment, right? And instead of sending it to you like once a month on the first of the month, I can take that amount, I can split it up amongst the number of seconds in the month or whatever period you want. These are actually technically open-ended, so you don't even have to define the period if you don't want to. But effectively what happens is it's like opening up a faucet where money is literally streamed second by second from one account to another. So again, I just kind of explained what these are, but what I think is interesting about this is that second point there in the middle is that this enables a direct real-time link between value transfer and service provision. So if you work for my company and you clock in, right? Let's say you're doing customer support or something like that and you clock in. Well, every second you work, every second you're on call, you're providing value to me, right? But how does payment usually work? You usually have to work a bunch of hours and then wait for 2 weeks and then get paid at the end of the 2 weeks or the end of the month or the end of the week. And that's like not an equal, like we're on an unequal playing field there, right? Because I basically get to just sit on this cash flow, and you know the time value of money is a very real thing. So if you're doing work that's making me money, I can basically earn yield on that money until I have to eventually pay you in 2 weeks. That's not fair. There should be a direct link between the value you provide me and the payment I provide you over time, right? That's the idea, and it's all on chain, so it's all visible, and there's no intermediaries either. The second one here is instant distribution. So this is one we don't usually talk about that much at Superfluid because it's tough to talk about this and money streaming in the same breath, but we want to really start talking about this more because it's provided a lot of value to our community and to various projects. So these are just scalable one-to-many transfers, right? So account A here can decide to create an index, add a bunch of addresses to that index, and distribute funds that are, in a single transaction, distributed to the entire index proportionally. You can almost think about this as like a dividend payment, where you as the publisher get to give people shares in this pool. And by calling distribute, you have to make a single function call, right? Send one transaction to distribute funds to n number of addresses, right? I could have 200 people I need to send funds to, and instead of having to do a loop, which is, as we all know as devs, loops in Solidity kind of suck and they are really expensive and they're not a good idea. With the IDA, instant distributions, I'll get into what the IDA is later. That's what enables this. But with instant distributions and Superfluid, this is far more scalable. And then very soon, we're going to combine the money streaming and the instant distributions into one thing, right? So this would be a third option where you could have a large pool, large index, and as the creator of that index, you can send a single stream, which is split up amongst everybody in the pool proportionally. So it's like a one-to-many stream, which would be innovative as well, right? I can add n subscribers to an index, and funds can be streamed to n number of subscribers in that index, right? So those are new forms of value transfer, right? All pretty cool. This is stuff you can all do today, except for flow distributions that's coming soon. But how is all of this even possible, right? Like, how is this possible? It's possible because we're building a new token standard. That's really why it's possible. And it's a token standard that is directly connected to Superfluid, the protocol, right? Which has been in existence for a long time, been battle tested, multiple audits, lots of high value applications building on top of it. It's just time for us to really start talking about this token standard, right? Again, it's powered by Superfluid Protocol. So before we talk about like what this is, what the super token is, we got to talk about the ERC20, right? Because this is the foundation of the super token as well, right? So what does the ERC20 let you do, right? Well, the ERC20 is built around discrete transactions, right? It works a lot like the debit card transfer that I mentioned earlier, right? It supports, a mapping of static balances that you can read with balance of, and balances are changed by calling transfer, right? There's just like a big ledger, and it's cool, good innovation, good standardization for the space. It's pretty much every asset is an ERC20 that's not like a native asset in the space. And, it's been good. But our take on this is that this could be more, right? We can allow balances to change in totally novel ways. So what is the super token? Well, it extends the ERC20 and the ERC777. I'm not going to go too deeply into ERC777 today, but there are some other features that are on that are helpful to people using super tokens. It's backwards compatible with ERC20 and ERC777. So if I have DAI or Comp or Uni or USDC, I can wrap that and easily unwrap that as a super token. And I'll walk through how that works later. It supports a mapping of static balances just like the ERC20 does, right? Balances are changed by calling transfer. You can just do a discrete transfer still if you want to. All that stuff that you normally get on the ERC20 you can do, but there's more, right? And the cool thing is that token balances can be changed in these novel ways, and I'll walk through how that's possible in a bit, but the ways in which token balances can be changed are defined by things called superfluid agreements, right? So this is like the logic for how balances can be changed using Superfluid, right? The agreements are plugged directly into the Superfluid protocol and just define new ways that balances can move. We have two right now, one for money streaming, one for instant distributions, and then a third one in progress around the flow distributions, right? These agreements are the thing that define the logic there. And I'll explain more about this in a second. So agreements, right? You can think of these as like peer-to-peer financial relationships, right? That are encoded in just like Solidity, a Solidity smart contract, right? You have all of these are different. Again, you can think of these as like logic contracts that define how balances can move, and the super token as the contracts that hold state, that actually store the token balances themselves. Right? So there's a function that I'll explain in just a bit called the real-time balance function that takes into consideration all of these peer-to-peer financial relationships you're engaged in and allow you to see at any given point in time, what is my balance, right? So again, right now I've got the CFA, constant flow agreement, that's for money streaming. The IDA, instant distribution agreement, is for the instant distributions, and FDA is the combination of those two, right? Again, all these are open-ended, they're perpetual, everything's on-chain, you can use the data. And again, like I said, it's built, like the logic here of you being able to change balances in these ways are all built into your token balance itself. And this is all kind of part of the Superfluid protocol, and the protocol itself is kind of what pulls all these things together. There's this other thing called the Superfluid host that's kind of like a larger state management contract for the entire system that also enables some programmable applications to be built that I'll discuss in just a bit. But the agreements themselves in the super tokens, these are meant to be building blocks for other people, right? So if you want to deploy your own super token, you can do that. Right? We have tooling and examples that let you deploy your own super token. In the future, we'll also likely have community members that build their own agreement contracts as well. The agreements are just a library of ways that balances can be changed. In the future, if we have people like yourself listening to this to become very knowledgeable about how Superfluid works, that has an idea for how these balances can be changed in new ways beyond just money streaming or distributions, we'd like to talk to you. They're not necessarily easy contracts to build right now, but over time, we want this to be a community effort to really push the limit on like how money can work, right? So that's the idea. So okay, let me address the question here. Okay, so I can hear you, right? You're probably sitting there saying, okay, this is cool, I get it, but sir, how are the balances actually being updated? Like how is this actually even working? Okay, when I first heard about this, I was like, listen, my entire mental model about how state is changed on a blockchain is that you send transaction, and then something happens, and then it's done, right? This kind of open-ended thing is like, the first thing I asked was, am I going to have to literally like send a transaction every second to make this happen? And if so, like the gas is going to be ridiculous. So how on earth are you making this happen, right? And really the magic here is all inside of this real-time balance function. So I'm just going to use the example of the money streaming for right now, because it's probably the simplest one to explain. But every agreement, right, be it the instant distribution agreement or the money streaming constant flow agreement, every agreement will have a different way of updating a balance, right? So this real-time balance function will take into consideration the things that are happening in each of your peer-to-peer financial relationships defined in those agreements, right? In the case of money streaming, you have what we call a net flow rate, okay? So think about it this way. If I decide to create a stream to one of you in the audience for 10 DAI per month, okay? And another person in the audience decides to send me 5 DAI per month, okay? Those are just individual transactions, right? You don't have to keep calling transfer. You just create the stream one time. But what's happening in the real-time balance function is that we're always able to see at what time was the stream that I sent to you created. And if I ever updated it, like at what time would it be, at what time was it updated and what's the new amount, right? How many tokens am I receiving per second, right? If we take into consideration the flow that's being sent to me for 10 DAI per month and the flow, right now I'm sending somebody else a flow for 10 DAI per month. So outflow of 10 DAI per month and inflow of 5 DAI per month, okay? So think about that. What is my net flow rate? Well, we take the outflow, -10, and we add 5, which is, the calculation there is -5 per month. So as time passes, we know that the rate at which my balance should be decreasing is -5 DAI per month, right? And at any given point in time, if I decide that I want to transfer DAI or I want to create a new stream, before that actual state change is made, the protocol will check to see, all right, how many seconds have passed at the rate at which Sam has been losing 5 DAI per month. okay, based on how many seconds have passed, all right, at minus 5 DAI per month, we can calculate how many tokens he's lost over that period of time and whether or not he can do the state-changing operation that he wants to do based on how many DAI he has. So, if I'm trying to send more DAI than I actually have, the protocol won't let me. Again, that's a lot to take in. It took me a few iterations to really get that when I was first learning about this stuff. So feel free to just DM me or put stuff in the chat and I can try to answer it that way. But yeah, that's how the money streaming is even possible in the first place. But yeah, anyways. So one last thing about the super tokens themselves. There are a couple types, right? So I mentioned the backwards compatibility thing. This is important, right? But there are two ways to go about deploying a new super token, right? The first is that you just, maybe you are going to launch a token tomorrow and you want the token to be a super token. Awesome. We call that a native super token where all the supply is streamable, right? Or all the supply can be used within Superfluid agreements, right? So again, this is something we'd recommend if you're interested in building on top of Superfluid and you want to deploy a token. Just make it a native super token because out of the box, it will have all this functionality. However, we know that Maker is not going to redeploy DAI and tell everybody to migrate to super token DAI, right? So there are wrappers, right? So if you go to our dashboard at app.superfluid.finance, you'll be able to just use a simple UI to just wrap your existing DAI or your existing USDC or Uni or whatever you want to the super token version of that, right? And what's happening there is I just basically deposit my underlying DAI into the wrapper contract and I get out newly minted super token DAI. Works just like WETH or Wrap Bitcoin, same idea, but yeah, those wrappers are important. And again, the thing to keep in mind that I want you to walk away with is that these tokens themselves should feel like they have superpowers, right? And part of the reason for that is that we've engineered the developer experience to make it so that you can just call these functions that do this cool stuff directly on the token itself in our SDK or using our Solidity libraries, so that instead of calling just and sorry for the blurriness here, I blew this up too large, but instead of just being able to call it DAI.transfer, you can call DAIX, which is the super token version of this. You can call DAIX.createFlow, updateFlow, deleteFlow. You can do the same thing with the distributions, right? Where I want to maybe create an index. I want to update a subscription, all this stuff. And you can also do things with our SDK, like batch operations together. So imagine I want to create 3 streams at one time. I can create a batch call using our SDK to literally open 3 streams at the same time or 100 streams at the same time if I want to. But watch out for gas costs if you do a really large operation, but this is great for user experience. And on the side of programmability, there are other things that you can do with Superfluid that are even beyond just the simple money streaming or distribution stuff. You can do things like create super apps, okay? A super app is a smart contract that is aware of everything that's going on in the broader Superfluid protocol that can do things like react to incoming money streaming and cash flows. So if I have a super app, what I could do is I could build something like a smart contract that can run a hook every time it receives a new money stream, right? So for example, there's one that we call it tradable cash flow that it's an NFT contract that receives incoming streams and sends all of the incoming streams to the owner of the NFT, right? So it's these are these reactive smart contracts that have hooks like you see here in the after agreement created function that let you do literally anything you want on receipt of a stream, right? So you can do things like receive money and split the payments. There are even people that have built DeFi, really advanced DeFi applications around this and exchanges around this. And we'd encourage you to look into this if you're a Solidity dev. So when you think about all these different money streams and these different peer-to-peer financial agreements and super applications, you eventually get this network that's built out, right? Where you have all these connected cash flows, all these connected addresses, all these connected agreements of value transferring all over the place. And you get this network of programmable cash flows, right? So this is literally the live Superfluid network on Polygon. And it becomes this universe, right? Where there's a really interesting network effect that takes place where if I'm receiving super tokens, I can start sending super tokens to pay off my subscriptions, or maybe I can pay my rents, or maybe I can dollar cost average into my favorite asset, right? And, those of you that are considering building on Superfluid at this event, we'd love for you to do so because, you'll just be contributing to this network, and you have this network to plug into to get users and to get liquidity and volumes and all that good stuff. So we really encourage you to build on us and contribute to this.
And all right, here's present day Sam here with one final message for you now that you've seen that workshop, which gives you a baseline on how to build on Superfluid and a background understanding on what we are and how you might be able to use us for your project. So first of all, we want to just thank you for considering building on us at ETH Tokyo. We have 5K in prizes for the event that you can all qualify to win if you either implement our SDK or some of our smart contracts into your project. And, I wanted to also let you know that we will be there in person several days before the event, helping hackers get started, helping people shape ideas. You're welcome to go to docs.superfluid.finance. That's our documentation link to learn more about how to actually build on us with our actual SDK or our Solidity libraries. And you'll also see a list of use cases and potential ideas there as well. So feel free to reference that. And if you have any questions or any thoughts you maybe want to workshop with our team about what you might want to build in Tokyo, you're welcome to reach out to us in our Discord. You can find our Discord either at our main website at superfluid.finance, or you can just punch in the link discord.superfluid.finance to be redirected automatically to the Discord. And in there, just go into the Hackathons channel or the Dev Support channel. Feel free to tag me or Sunny from our team and just let us know what your ideas are. Right? Ask your questions, let us know what your ideas are, and we can help you make sure you have a great event in Tokyo. So thanks again. We're very excited to see you in person, and best of luck.